Coming up on Lawmakers, Atlanta loses the race for the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Controversy in the Senate over the creation of new municipalities in the metro Atlanta area. And Montel Williams visits the state capitol on a nationwide tour to promote the Partnership for Prescription Assistance. Those stories and more are coming up next.
This is Lawmakers, your source for all the news from under the Gold Dome. Here are your anchors, Gerald Bryant and Nwandi Lawson.
Good evening, everyone. Also on Lawmakers, the Senate passes a bill that would launch a pilot program to create a paper audit trail for Georgia's electronic voting machines.
And the Senate passes a measure to urge utility companies to build more nuclear power plants in Georgia. But our lead story tonight, despite the efforts of the state and the city, Atlanta will not be the location for the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Georgians learned today that Charlotte, not Atlanta, will receive the NASCAR Hall of Fame. The Senate passed a House bill this morning that gave tax incentives for the NASCAR Hall of Fame if they chose Atlanta. David Zelski joins us live from the Capitol with details. David.
Well, Gerald, about 2 hours after the Senate passed House Bill 1182, Governor Sonny Perdue and Atlanta Mayor Shirley Franklin held a press conference at the Georgia Aquarium, which is near the proposed Hall of Fame site, to thank all of those who helped out with the bid. Senator Casey Cagle carried House Bill 1182 in the Senate. The bill gave millions in tax incentives for NASCAR to build their Hall of Fame right beside Centennial Park and the Georgia Aquarium. Mayor Franklin and Governor Perdue informed the public of this loss at a press conference held in front of the Georgia Aquarium.
You see all around us, obviously, the aquarium, the World of Coca-Cola under construction, the expanded and new High Museum. We are very, very optimistic of what we can do working together in this community.
This community, this state, has everything to be proud about and nothing to be ashamed about. We put a business case proposal on there strong. Frankly, the mayor stepped up, the Metro Chamber stepped up, the Visitors and Bureau Convention and Visitors Bureau stepped up, the state stepped up, the citizens of Georgia stepped up in a great way, and we were unfortunate in that they decided to go home, but that's okay. Racing's going to continue here. Georgia it'll be a part of Georgia for the future, and we'll continue to be a part of that. We wish them well, and we want to invite them to the aquarium.
Now, Atlanta boasts 9 companies that are major NASCAR sponsors, more than any other city, including Charlotte, but again was not enough to sway NASCAR officials. Reporting live, I'm David Zelski for Lawmakers.
In a related story, House and Senate conferees have come to an agreement on the amended 2006 budget. A reliable source tells us conferees were waiting to see if the NASCAR Hall of Fame money should be included before signing off on the supplemental budget. Also today, the House Appropriations Committee passed out its version of the FY 2007 budget. Late this afternoon, we'll have more on that on Wednesday.
The legislature will be adjourned tomorrow. When they come back, the Senate will have a very busy schedule on Wednesday. Senators are expected to debate Senator Chip Rogers' immigration bill, which attempts to crack down on illegal immigrants and employers who hire them. Senator Rogers says the measure has broad support.
We have had those who you would normally think are going to be opposed to any enforcement of federal immigration laws at the state level to many of those people are now actually either silent or in support of this bill, and I think that says something to the compromises that have been made, and really to an understanding of what actually the federal law says and how we can get in compliance. Because I think it's good that every employer and every person in the state falls under those same laws, and that they're equally applied to all. So I think the process has up to this point has worked perfectly. We have what I consider to be not only a very good bill for Georgia, but from a nationwide standpoint, hopefully something that can be modeled in other states that they can use to begin addressing this problem.
Also expected on the Senate floor this week, Senator Cecil Staten's Rural Georgia Economic Development Act of 2006. It will allow community improvement districts to issue bonds for residential development in rural Georgia.
It provides for counties or cities in Georgia an alternative funding mechanism for infrastructure costs. And although much of what we do gets filtered through the lenses of Atlanta and its growth, metro Atlanta counties, there are many, many counties in the state of Georgia that need growth. They need jobs. They need homes and grocery stores and pharmacies and doctors. But they cannot afford to put the burden of that growth on an existing tax base that perhaps simply cannot bear the cost. So this is a tool. It's a tool that's been used for many years in other states, Texas, Florida, California. Right now, Louisiana and Alabama are looking at legislation, as is North Carolina, to deal with this very thing.
Also expected on the Senate floor this week, the bill that would reduce the size of buffer areas currently required for building along Georgia's rivers and streams.
Today, the Senate passed a bill that would make it easier for new municipalities to form. Senate Bill 569 is enabling legislation for the proposed cities of Doraville, Chamblee, and Dunwoody. Lawmakers Jesse Freeman joins us live from the Capitol with more on that. Jesse.
Well, in Wandy, it took the city of Sandy Springs a half a century to incorporate, but other parts of the North Metro area may not have to wait so long. SB 569 provides for the transfer of certain property like parks and fire departments to new cities. The bill was written for proposed cities, but the bill's sponsor, Senator Dan Weber, says it will also benefit Sandy Springs.
Fulton County is demanding that Sandy Springs pay full market value for parks located in what are now fully developed commercial areas. Sandy Springs residents are saying we deserve credit for the taxes we have paid for those parks over the last 30 years.
Senator Vincent Fort from Fulton County questioned the intent of the bill.
Sandy Springs wants their cake and they want to eat it too. They want their cake and they want to eat it too. They want the parks, they want the police station, they want the fire station, but they don't want to be nowhere near Fulton County.
Bills at the bottom of the Senate calendar today dealing with the incorporation of Chamblee, Doraville, and Dunwoody were not voted on.
We filed the legislation for all three of those bills knowing that the feasibility study would come out around the 1st of March. We now have a draft of that feasibility study. We want to be responsible, take a look at it, and review it with my steering committee tonight, review it with the Carl Vinson Institute. They're going to issue their final report in the next day or two. Then we're going to have a community meeting on Saturday.
And Senator Weber says that he will take public input over the next few days and decide whether or not to push forward this session with his incorporation plans. Reporting for Lawmakers, I'm Jesse Freeman.
Well, in a related story, the House today approved a measure paving the way for the creation of the city of Milton in North Fulton County. Representative Jan Jones said 20,000 residents would be positively impacted because Fulton County is currently too large to serve their needs.
If you added together all the counties in Georgia, 159, starting with the lowest population, you would come to the midway point of the state of Georgia, 78 counties, before you would come to you would arrive at the population of the county of Fulton County, the population of Fulton County. In other words, our county commission today represents an area that represents a population of half the counties in Georgia.
House Bill 1470 passed 127 to 21 with opposition coming from Fulton County Democrats. It moves to the Senate. If the bill becomes law, residents would vote on the incorporation measure in a July referendum.
In other news, the state Senate today approved Senator Bill Stevens' voting paper trail bill by a vote of 41 to 2, but some rural feathers were ruffled over the measure. One senator believes rural counties should play a larger role in testing the new electronic voting machines. Lawmakers J.R. Charles joins us live from the Capitol with more on this story. J.R.
Thank you, Gerald. Senate Bill 500 would designate 3 counties to test Georgia's new voting system. Under Senator Stevens' bill, Camden, Bibb, and Cobb counties would test new Diebold voting systems that produce a voting receipt. Senator Stevens says the selected precincts represent Georgia's population, but one senator says rural Georgia is being left out of the picture.
Voting machines. My hope is that this legislation will take us one more step forward towards having the most trustworthy and secure voting system in the country.
But some senators think the test could be more inclusive.
And rural Georgia has good, solid election superintendents?
Yes, sir, I'm aware of that, and having grown up in Fannin County, Georgia, where occasionally in years past, when they didn't like the polling results, they just drove the pickup down the road with the box on the back of it. I know that there are issues in rural Georgia that we also have to deal with.
You shouldn't have said that, Senator, because...
Well, you got to have a sense of humor, Senator.
Well, sarcasm is the language of the devil.
Senator Stevens to be congratulated. His bill's a good bill. I like it. I support it. The problem is they're all large counties and they're all quasi-urban counties. There are no small county or rural, completely agricultural precincts like I represent.
But the Secretary of State's office is comfortable with the bill.
We We had a number of counties that we discussed with Senator Stevens, and it was his decision to select the counties that he did select. We had given him some that were more rural than that, but for whatever reason he chose those three. But I believe those three are a good representation of the state of Georgia.
Again, Senate Bill 500 passed out of the Senate with a 41-2 vote. Now it's the House's turn to pass that voting test. Reporting live, I'm J.R. Charles for Lawmakers.
House and Senate conferees have agreed on a bill that allows some prescription medicines to be ordered by email and delivered by mail. Senator Don Balfour spoke on the agreement on House Bill 246.
It basically includes two different bills. One bill is e-prescribing that I think voted unanimously out of the House and Senate. There was no controversy to that. And when it was brought forth a year ago on the House bill, I added to it the mail order prescription that passed overwhelmingly in the Senate and went to the House, and there was a little controversy over there. And we set up the conference committee. The conference committee has come back, and basically we've decided to let the one company in Georgia, it's a closed panel HMO, Kaiser, do the mail order in Georgia since they're already here.
The conference committee report on HB 246 was adopted by a vote of 46-2. It goes to Governor Perdue.
Partnership for Prescription Assistance of Georgia held a press conference in front of the Capitol today. Atlanta was the latest stop for PPA's nationwide initiative to make prescription medication accessible for all Americans. Lawmakers Lauren Brown has more.
Partnership for Prescription Assistance and their national spokesperson, Montel Williams, appeared at the Capitol today to promote PPA's new initiative to help anyone needing assistance with their prescription medication.
This is an unprecedented private sector initiative in the history of this country. No industry has stepped up to the plate, from the oil industry to any other industry, and said, let me just give away $5 billion worth of our inventory each year.
Partnership for Prescription Assistance is a national network of pharmaceutical research companies, healthcare providers, and community groups. During today's visit at the Capitol, volunteers explained enrollment options to potential patients. PPA allows participants to sign up online or through a toll-free number. TV host Montel Williams, who still deals with the effects of multiple sclerosis, knows firsthand why prescription access is so important.
And these are people who are making choices every day about whether or not they're going to buy food, whether or not they're going to actually buy extra clothing for the kids to go to school with, or buy their medicine. And in a nation that's supposed to be doing as great as we are, and we're trying to promote our democracy all over the world, I'm proud of the fact that now private sector industry has stepped up to be that stopgap filler. But I'm angry because this is something that should have been done by our federal government.
Thus far, Partnership for Prescription Assistance has helped 1.7 million patients nationally and 124,000 here in Georgia. Reporting for Lawmakers, I'm Lauren Brown.
Well, among the health care proposals on the table this session are several that would change procedures for certified nurse practitioners. Besides treating allergies and other illnesses, the operators of Minneapolis-based Minute Clinic have been keeping an eye on how these changes will impact the company's 8 Atlanta locations. Earlier, I visited a Minute Clinic in the Virginia Highlands section of Atlanta to learn more. Since the 15-minute medical exams are performed by certified nurse practitioners, the company welcomed the passage in the House Thursday of House Bill 935 to allow advanced practice nurse practitioners to write prescriptions.
And you have to take the time to call the pharmacist. You have to put patients on hold sometimes. The pharmacists are busy. It'd just be easier for the patient to be able to just take that prescription wherever they want to go to.
But the legislation of greatest concern to providers like Minute Clinic are the 2 short sections of Senate Bill 607, which would make it illegal for them to operate in a pharmacy setting like CVS. Senator Preston Smith says his bill addresses 2 primary concerns.
There have been a total of 2 physicians that are supposedly having oversight, and they're available by phone call in a different city. So we're concerned a little bit about the quality of the health care, and that something that may appear to be an earache, for example, might be cancer that's causing the earache and might be missed. So that's one concern. The other concern is that there's a conflict of interest, we think, with pharmacies operating inside these health care establishments where you're making money on the health visit and you're making money on the pharmacy as well.
What happens is if a patient has the right and will tell us where they want their prescription called. So it can be at the pharmacy here at CVS, or it could be down the street or by their home.
Dr. Kevin Smith is one of the physicians who oversees Minute Clinic services. He and his colleagues say restricting their services penalizes patients.
Quite a few of our patients don't have a primary care physician. Their only other option is maybe to go to the emergency room. They really don't want to do that. So you have people that won't be treated who otherwise, that if we're here, will come for treatment.
We certainly appreciate the desire to have high-quality health care accessible to everyone. But the concern is we don't want to sacrifice quality for accessibility. I mean, it was certainly more accessible if we offered vasectomies in veterinary clinics, but I doubt very few people want to do that. So we want to make sure we have both quality and accessibility.
Now, Dr. Smith of Minute Clinic says that certified nurse practitioners are well trained here in Georgia with master's degrees, that they're covered by malpractice insurance, and that their rate of error is no higher than other medical professionals.
Legislators and child advocates from Voice for Georgia's Children today endorsed Peach Care for All Kids, a bipartisan initiative to provide universal health care for all Georgia children. Representative Pat Gardner explains.
Peach Care for All Kids is unique because it addresses the needs of all Georgia's children who are not insured through their parents' employers. It covers all children using 3 tools. A is the current Medicaid program. B is the state children's health insurance program, SCHIP, or right now in Georgia is called Peach Care. C creates a group purchasing arrangement for health insurance that we believe will be attractive and affordable for Georgia's families.
Representative Gardner pointed out that the 325,000 children currently not covered by health insurance are from a variety of socioeconomic levels. One example Gardner cited was state employees who under federal regulations are unable to qualify for Medicaid but oftentimes cannot afford rising insurance premiums. Peach Care for All Kids would enable children from families with any income to receive health care.
Well, the Sloppy Floyd Towers located across the street from the Capitol had a bit of a scare today. Emergency vehicles surrounded the 20-story government building around 10 o'clock this morning, responding to a white powdery substance being found on the 7th floor of the East Tower. Lawmakers David Zelsky has this story.
The substance was found on the 7th floor of the East Tower, where Georgia's Department of Corrections is located. People who worked in the Sloppy Floyd building were allowed to move in and out of the front door. However, this lower section here where the mailroom is was closed off. People in hazmat uniforms going in and out, and at one time bringing someone who reported shortness of breath into the EMS vehicle. 6 people total were decontaminated and then loaded into the ambulance. Even though a couple of people reported illnesses and shortness of breath, the vehicle sat for an hour before heading to Grady Hospital.
We have notified several other agencies within the state, of course. So we have GEMA here, of course, and what they're going to do is get collaborative effort, and hopefully we can determine exactly what the suspicious powdery substance is.
The emergency management teams headed out around noon, reporting no serious medical issues, that the substance was actually calcium phosphate, a non-hazardous cleaning solution. Reporting for Lawmakers, I'm David Zelsky.
In other news, the state Senate today voted to clarify the language in living wills. Here's Senator John Douglas.
It was brought to me by an attorney, and he asked me if I would look at this and see if there was any way we could put in some what I call common sense language. And so if you look on page 2 on line 5, where it talks about including nourishment and hydration, just as an example, we added such as I do not want food or water. Then including nutrition but not hydration, putting in such as I want water but not food. Then the third item on line 7, excluding nutrition and hydration.
I'm sorry, and the vote on that bill was 44-0. That goes to the House. In a related bill, the Senate voted to simplify durable power of attorney, the legal document that lets you decide who will make your health care decisions if you can't. Here's Senator Judson Hill.
And because of these logistical challenges imposed by the current legal requirements for witnessing the document, many healthcare facilities and hospitals frankly just don't offer their patients this document as an option. The passage of SB 542 substitute cures this problem. It will inspire the use of the durable power of attorney for health care, and lives will be saved. The legislation eliminates the mandate that the attending physician be required to personally witness the patient sign this document when the patient's hospitalized or in a nursing facility. Now the hospitals and nursing homes can designate qualified people and their medical staff to witness these types of powers of attorney when the doctor is not available.
And our apologies, the first speaker was Senator John Bullock. On that second bill, Senate Bill 542, that passed 48-0. It also heads for the House.
Well, a bill approved by the House today could compel the Attorney General's office to have its settlement agreements approved by the General Assembly. Representative Earl Earhart told the House that this use of constitutional power is necessary in light of the millions of dollars spent to settle a recent child welfare case. But he was questioned about whether this bill is the correct remedy.
If we make that decision, the downside is that the plaintiff immediately can seek relief, any type of injunctive relief from that same judge, and it would then become a matter of litigation. It would become a matter of appeal. It could go to the Supreme Court of the United States, and at that point, and only at that point, but it is our responsibility to spend the money. We can't abdicate our responsibility for appropriations to federal judges. They've gotten, in my opinion, out of hand. They have no business telling taxpayers what monies can be spent.
Under a Democratic governor, I went to the legal counsel, and under a Republican governor, I went to the legal counsel of the governor of the state of Georgia and said, you're going to spend more money on attorney fees if you don't settle this case. I did that 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and 2 years ago. I have been meddling about this attorney fee issue for several years, and I'm glad Mr. Earhart's brought it forward, because the state has spent more money than it needed to on this litigation. And if you compare it to other states, if Georgia had been more affirmative about correcting the assistance of child welfare system, we would have saved some money.
House Bill 1164 passed 108-41. It moves to the Senate.
The Senate wants Georgia utility companies to think nuclear. Senator Regina Thomas thought that was a bad idea. First Senator Mitch Seabaugh speaking in favor of Senate Resolution 865.
Right now, we're looking at, by 2015, to be 1,000 megawatts short of base load that we're going to need here in the state of Georgia. And when you look at, there's a graph that's being passed out right now. The EIA has given information that right now, when you look at the lowest cost for construction and for operation, the most stable cost comes from nuclear. We're asking for them to look at the potential of putting in another nuclear plant here in Georgia. Last year in the federal energy bill, there was a 1.8 cent per kilowatt income tax credit that will be given on the first 6,000 megawatts that will be generated in the United States. And this would allow Georgians to take an opportunity to capitalize on that tax credit.
Nuclear power is expensive and we just cannot afford it. It's just like gas deregulation. How we lied to the consumers in this state of natural gas, saying that if we deregulated natural gas, it's going to bring about lower gas bills. And ladies and gentlemen, I tell you, it did everything but. Our gas bills are higher now than ever before, and they're going to continue to get higher. We lied, and the people in this state are suffering because of it. It's just like now we have them down. Take your foot and put it on their neck and hold them down until they die. That's exactly what we are doing. Georgia Power's nuclear plant Vogtle was one of the last and most costly nuclear plants built in the country and resulted in the worst rate hike Georgians ever experienced.
The resolution urging electric utilities to consider building nuclear power plants in Georgia passed 43-6.
The Georgia Cancer Coalition, American Cancer Society, and the Georgia Commission on Women held a press conference today to highlight the recent contributions made to cancer research. Representative Gail Buckner explained the impact of these donations that people have made voluntarily on their state income tax funds.
What a great opportunity as they scan that form to look on there and find this voluntary checkoff to make a donation for the treatment, actually the research, the treatment and prevention of breast cancer, prostate cancer, and ovarian cancer.
There's a lot about cancer that we don't know, and that is why the Georgia Cancer Coalition invests so heavily in cancer research. We aim to lead the nation in rapidly moving new discoveries from the laboratory to the patient in the doctor's office or in the hospital. The very backbone of our strategy is to recruit 150 of the very best cancer clinicians and scientists to come from the best cancer centers in America to Georgia. Over $1 million has been raised to date and has been matched dollar for dollar by the private sector.
It's very important that we continue to let our citizens throughout the state know that just a few dollars, when given by thousands and thousands of people, will save many lives.
And finally tonight, backers of a biodiesel fuel bill believe it could add over $1 billion of industry to the state's economy. The bill would require state and local governments to use a blend of biodiesel and petroleum diesel in their vehicles. Lawmakers' R.V. Magnuson has the story of one businessman who's already using biodiesel.
Andrew Crawford is an ornamental iron worker in Atlanta. He uses biodiesel in his shop truck.
Biodiesel is a fuel that we use in our diesel engines that, unlike petroleum diesel, is a renewable resource because it's made of vegetable oil and animal byproducts. I can back a truck into the shop and the exhaust from the truck doesn't choke everybody out. I've seen the cost of biodiesel go down significantly over the years, and as the demand goes up for it, my hope's that production will increase.
Georgia has a pretty good potential for biodiesel production. Currently, you can make biodiesel from poultry fat. In fact, it is being made in the state with poultry fat, and we produce a lot of chicken here, so we have access to a fair amount of poultry fat. We also have a lot of cropland that could potentially be used to grow oilseed crops that could then be used for feedstock for making biodiesel.
Senator Brian Kemp authored Senate Bill 453. He was encouraged when it passed out of the Senate by a vote of 52-4.
Hopefully it'll be a small step toward helping us be independent of foreign oil. It's also good for the state of Georgia. Our farmers can grow these products. We have companies that are either investing in infrastructure here in the state of Georgia to manufacture the product or be involved in part of the process of manufacturing it.
This biodiesel that's here behind us actually comes from a biodiesel production facility in Rome, Georgia, U.S. Biofuels, and they are currently making their biodiesel from poultry fat.
We've got other people that are looking to come and spend millions of dollars in economic development here. There's a couple of school districts that's already doing this, and we just want to make people aware of it and have them start going to this. It's going to be good for everybody.
Senate Bill 453 is currently in the General Agriculture Matters Subcommittee. I'm R.V. Magnuson reporting for Lawmakers.
Lawmakers will not be seen tomorrow because the Georgia General Assembly will be in recess. Lawmakers returns with all the latest from under the Gold Dome Wednesday night at 7. If you've missed any part of this Lawmakers broadcast, tune in tomorrow morning when Lawmakers repeats at 5:30 a.m. Now, stay tuned for Antiques Roadshow, FYI. That's coming up next here on GPB.
And that is our broadcast for this, the 27th legislative day of the Georgia General Assembly. I'm Gerald Bryant.
And I'm Wandy Lawson. Thanks so much for joining us and have a great evening.
Been a production of Georgia Public Broadcasting.